Thank you for coming back. This is the 5th session, I think. Suzanne, role of EA in a business change environment.
Okay, thank you everybody for attending. The purpose of this is to talk about enterprise architect. Now, I'm not talking about systems, enterprise systems or enterprise technology architect. I've deliberately kept the term quite vague. In a business change environment. So I personally work across both business change and technology and enterprise architect. So that's what's driven me to want to do this. I'm going to cut through some of the slides quite quickly because I know I've got more slides than the time allotted. So I've kept the slides in there for context purposes, but I'll skip through them quite quickly. I've broken this down into 3 parts. Business change, so what is a business change environment? Why do businesses change? Change management frameworks. Now what I've tried to do here is I've tried to tie in Togaf, which is the enterprise architecture that I know and work with, principle-wise, and P3M, which is portfolio, program and project management, P3M. I use management of portfolios, it's that framework, MSP, the program framework, and Prince2 frameworks. So I don't follow any of them slavishly, I follow the principles behind all of them. So those are the 3 that I've chosen to follow. And I'm going to summarise at the end. As you'll see as I go through it, I've got a table that I'm trying to populate, sort of to show how the 3 PMs and Togaf fit and how they correspond with each other. So business change environment. There's a lot of words in here. What's a business change environment? It's the transition of individuals, organisations from a current state to a future stage, limiting the amount of resistance, least amount of resistance. Standard change includes, these are things that you normally have to do to go through change, evaluate the organisational issue, initiating action to make change, planning change, executing plans and sustaining change. That last one is actually something that a lot of organisations forget to do. They've made the change and think it's great, but they don't look to keep going back and look over it. My daughter's put graphics in this, so it's sort of funny. she's made it younger for me. So why do businesses need to change? And why do they fail? Okay, one example is crisis. You come to a crisis point in 11 September, a lot of businesses changed then. Either they no longer existed, or they had to change to readjust. Capability development. Okay. Capability development, performance gaps, internal and external pressures. Most of these are financially. Industries need to change to maintain presence within the market. Competition, profitability, several reasons into there. One may sounds good. It does happen. You know, the CEOs talk to the CEO, oh, isn't that a good idea? Identification of other opportunities. So I'm currently working with an organisation that's got a big presence in defence. You saw on this morning's TV that there was a question mark about the defence budget. I've been working with that organisation to look at other public sector environments that we could move into, because being in that environment, you sort of knew that was going to be happening. Planned abandonment. Change as a result of abandoning declining products. I'm sure everybody's been there where you've been selling a product that you know is coming to end of life, you have to abandon it, or look to innovate it to make it more fit for purpose. This is the interesting one, new technology. There's a lot of changes going on at the moment. Technology at the moment, in a lot of businesses, actually driving the change. Wrapped around technology is obviously security, cyber security. So that's driving a lot of change as well. I actually attended the CIO conference last week, and they were talking about the move of centralised technology delivery to decentralising technology delivery. We had quite a big discussion about this. So quite a few businesses are moving towards technology being delivered by both business functions rather than from a technology department. So there's a lot of debate about devolved budgets, about keeping a continuous alignment of the technology that's being delivered. So this is all driving through change as well. And mergers and acquisitions, I'm sure everybody's come across these before. Yeah, we've all been there. Why do they fail? Insufficient board level, leadership weak, unrealistic expectations. I'm sure none of these are new or surprise to anybody. Inadequate focus on benefits. That's a big one for me personally. I think a lot of organisations think, good idea, we're going to go there, don't look at the benefits. Or the reasons why they're going to go there. They don't truly quantify the benefits or add a value to them. Purely poorly defined, poorly communicated vision. Again, I'm sure a lot of us have been there. And the organisation fails to exchange culture and not enough engagement with stakeholders. So I'm going to skip through this slide because it's there's a lot of words in there, but it's really just talk through how businesses can change. Okay, so I'm going to populate this as I go through with the different sections. So the first column I've put in there is why change, and what I've done is I've just replicated the key points from the previous slides. Okay, so I'm now looking at how we can actually do business change frameworks. So this is the portfolio program project change. I'm just going to go into these very quickly just to make sure that everybody understands what we're talking about from different ones. This is a common picture that you'll see with most things. The interesting lines are the ones along the bottom. So portfolio change is about organisational management control. Program is about benefits and risks and stakeholders, and projects about finance and resource management, generally. Again, I'm going to split through this slide. It's an interesting information slide. It's a piece of work that was done by the UK Cabinet Office, looking at why projects and programmes fail. So it's government focused, and it's there for context more than anything. I don't tend to spend a lot of time on it. I don't think there's anything of real shocking outputs from that. And again, I'm going to skip through this slide, except to say that these are the perspectives that sit across all the P3M, the portfolio, programme and project management. So these are what we're looking at when we're delivering organisational change, not enterprise architecture change. Okay, so I'm sure you're all familiar with this. This is what Togaf is, the framework for enterprise architecture. What I was interested in was the design, planning, implementation and governance side of it, and how this fits in with the three aspects of change that I previously introduced. Togaf is a high-level approach to technical design. Technical is an interesting word. We've also got digitalisation coming through, you've got information coming through, they all come under wraparound under technical, and this I think is where it's all starting to get blurred now. So technical is no longer your PCs or your data centres, it's much, much wider, which is why it's got a much wider influence across an organisation. Under Togaf, delivered a model at 4 levels: business, application, data and technology. So I'm just going on here, I'm just repeating really what's in Togaf, just for context purposes. The 2 areas that I'm really interested in though are business architecture, business strategy, governance, organisation and key business processes, and data architecture. Logical and physical data assets. Assets being the interesting word because information is an asset as well. It's not just the physical assets. I'm sure you recognise this diagram, and here I'm just really saying these are the 2 areas that I'm really looking at from this, where Togaf fits in. So here I'm lining up the P3M, the portfolio, programme and project objectives against the Togaf objectives. So I'm looking for common ground across 3 because I'm looking at how enterprise architecture fits in with business change. So all of them talk about transparency, accountability, compliance, cost savings is the big one, it's the reason why they're doing it, generally organisations. Funds optimisation, so people talk about non-funded business benefits, and that generally comes under that because everything could be funded, can put a financial amount against it, but it's sometimes it's not clear. Benefits realisation. The one that is Togaf specific is to reuse existing approaches. Now I actually use, when I apply change to an organisation, when I go down the 3PM approach, I actually pick that up as a principle, but even though it's not in one of the framework principles, is what I do because I think that's quite important. It comes under, I also wrap under that lessons learned as well from previous exercises. So reuse existing approaches, lessons learned where you can. I'm starting to populate this table now, so I've got Togaf, I've started to put the Togaf principles in there, and I'm starting to line them up as to why we're looking to change. So capability and competition, I've put under architectural vision, Togaf. Mergers and acquisitions, I've put under business architecture. New technology, even though business change is not purely about technology, I think it's big enough to include, so I've included the applications architecture in that, and technology architecture as well. Okay, I've just gone to talk in a bit more detail about the 3 Ps, or P3M, or 3PM, there's lots of acronyms you can see for it. Portfolio. This is the strategic change that an organisation goes under. It's quite important to understand these because they're not independent. Organisations tend to do either just project management or programme management. It's quite important that an organisation has got the 3 tiers in there. So the portfolio management is obviously one of more portfolios. In general terms, the organisations I've worked with have actually operated that at a CX level. So it's higher than the portfolio, it's actually at CX level. That's where the true financial benefits come through. Programme management relates to a group of projects that have got the same set of benefits. So the benefits are driving which projects are in that. May not all be, for example, technology, may include HR, may include something else in there, but they've got a common set of benefits. And then project management comes through from the programme management. Project management is about delivery. So the project management is about the doing, it's about the delivery. And that's where your time, quality and cost comes in through the project management. So this is a standard diagram for portfolio management. The key thing when you talk to people about portfolio management is organisational energy. That's where your stakeholder, your leader's energy comes in, your direction comes in. Portfolios have got to be led from the, in my opinion, from the CX level. Chief officer, chief operating officer, chief technology officer. They've got to have the organisational energy to do it. If they haven't got the energy, then it's not going to succeed. It's just going to go nowhere. And they're the definitions and the delivery requirements that come through from portfolios. So I started to populate the portfolio column here against the Y changes and against the Togaf changes. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to show that enterprise architecture is got to be integrated in all levels of change, from the very initial thinking about change, not from we've halfway through doing this change portfolio and we've got to put a new system in, so we just suddenly remember about bringing enterprise architecture and that's too late. It's got to be done at the start, because then they can influence and shape what's the changes that are happening. So this looks a bit complicated, but it's an industry standard. It's an MSP program wheel, we call it. The wheel I'm particularly interested in is the outside wheel. So the inner wheel is how to do the program, so I'll skip through that. The middle wheel is about governance, so that's got an influence, but the outside wheel is about the actual principles, what program portfolio, what program management is trying to do. And here I've started to take the program principles and apply them to this table, so we can start to look at where they start to see some of the how they start to fit together. So the architectural vision is aligned to the strategic alignment. which is aligned to the capability development. I haven't actually got anything aligned to crisis for the why change, and the reason being is that in a crisis situation, everything just goes into that crisis situation. So it's a crisis is not planned, but the other pieces of the other areas are all planned. Under programmes, you've got benefits management, which is aligned to the value management, which I've sort of put against mergers and acquisitions. Not really sure if it should be against mergers and acquisitions, but it's in that area. I was doing my best to try and line them up, and there isn't actually a natural line across them. But, and the one that we have instituted through the programme is stakeholder management. So this is Prince 2, and it's a similar wheel to the programme one. Again, the area that I'm particularly interested in is the Prince 2 principles, which I have put in here, which are total cost and quality. They actually come through from the Prince 2 processes, the business case organisation. They actually go up. I haven't actually shown the wheel for the Prince 2 principles. But perhaps I should have done, sorry. So the project principles are now lined up to across where I see Togaf coming in. So business information and architecture is aligned up to quality and cost. It's aligned to the programme principles of benefits and financial management and the portfolio principles of value and risk management. The technology, why change for technology, is lined up to resource management for portfolios and stakeholder and programme governance for programme. Time, I took a lot of thinking about where the time should go for project principles. I've deliberately put it under that line because you need the time aspect to impact on the performance management side of it. Okay, I'm on more slides. There you are. As if by magic. So.
You have 10 minutes.
9 minutes. I'm now panicking because I've gone through some slides quite quickly.
No, you have 9 minutes, so reflect it.
Yeah. To summarise, I strongly believe in my working with organisations about programme change and everything, that enterprise architecture is part of that change process. It needs to be there right from the start. It needs to be done at a CX level, so probably a CIO level. Not necessarily at CTO, because it's different to technology. It's CIO is about information, and technology delivers the information. So I may be offending somebody here, I'm sorry if I am, but I see the CIO as at a sort of slightly higher level than the CTO. So the CIO is about gathering information. That information is gathered for the use of the other members, the CFO and the CEO. Enterprise architecture is required because it's wider than technology. It just talk about it being technology, but it's actually about the use of technology, which implies the use of information. In my opinion, it needs to be done at the CX level, the CEO level, when the change is first initiated and thought about. It needs to be thought about at that point. That way you can influence the change. It can influence the way that the business is managing and developing the change. Thank you. I'm early.
Thank you very much. So thank you, Suzanne. Like I said, we are a little bit early, so precisely to the nature of the slide, let's think about some questions. I suggest if we could all go to Slido when you've got a moment, slido.com, and put in the usual hashtag. There are 5 questions. You do not have to complete all 5, but if you can give some feedback on 1, 2 or 3, that would be marvellous. And in parallel with everyone doing that, very, very interesting topic, and I think it's vital that as enterprise architects we do work out how and when to interlock with external people, so I think it's a very pertinent topic. Questions from the floor perhaps?
There's a lot of questions going on. I'm watching. People are putting the questions in.
Good, that's good.
Just a really quick question, Suzanne, thank you for that. You mentioned that you felt that enterprise architecture should be tightly embedded into the change delivery method. What have been the implications as you've seen it when it hasn't been?
Well, why does change fail? Okay, so when it hasn't been, people have thought about the implications from a technology perspective rather than an information perspective. They've thought about it too late, and so what you often get is you get a senior director of an organisation that's got a pet piece of technology that they want to input, and then they don't bring it in at the stage where you can actually influence the organisation. So there's an example that I worked for an organisation and they wanted to bring a case management piece of work in. Before I joined, they brought in a third party, but the third party didn't understand what was required. So when I joined, I let that third party go and I brought in a new third party who was delivering an off-the-shelf product. And that product was going to be a lot more fit for purpose. But it wasn't thought about at the time of the original change, so they hadn't really thought about what they required. So the change, it usually costs the organisation a lot of money because they sometimes have to abort and change direction, or they don't get the transformed product that they were hoping to get, is my experience.
Okay, thank you.
I was interested in you trying to do the sort of mapping of projects and programs to architecture. Sometimes there's an architectural bit that sits in front of the program. So you're sort of doing the enterprise architecture to work out what the overall shape of the future enterprise is going to be, from which you get the program structure, from which you get the project structure, and so on. And so some of those project principles don't need to map to the architecture because it's already happened.
They don't. Now, I was looking before the programme, so I was looking at portfolio stuff.
Yeah.
Portfolio is when you started to actually design where the change is going to be.
Yeah.
So the CEO has a great idea we need to transform the business, and then they bring in portfolio leads at that point, which is prior to the programme.
Yeah.
So you're right, the portfolio is what leads the programme. But at that point, when they bring the portfolio and they're actually designing how that change is going to look, that's when they should be bringing the enterprise architecture in.
Yeah. On your table, I thought that mapping really worked incredibly well for the portfolio column.
Yeah.
It really worked. You can see how the two things map. When you got to project, the project is kind of it's beyond. It's not exactly beyond the architect. The architect is still going to influence how the project rolls out, but the architecture's been done. You're now into governing the way in which the architecture is